All right, let's bring in CNN senior legal analyst Elie Honig and former federal prosecutor Alyse Adamson. Great to have you both here. So Ventura is still testifying. This is her second day. Right now she is talking about that Uber ride home after the video we've seen from the hotel where Diddy is seen pulling her, attacking her. Tell us about her testimony and why that video is so important.
Well, so this is more corroboration. This is more support that prosecutors are trying to build in to Cassie Ventura's testimony. Of course, the surveillance video of the hotel assault is the most important piece, but now we're seeing the prosecutors use some other pieces of evidence, selfies, text messages, emails, things that were on Cassie Ventura's phone, because they want the jury to believe her unconditionally. And I want to make an important point here, that the defense argument is that, yes, this was domestic violence, but it's not racketeering, it's not sex trafficking. But it's important to know, and I think prosecutors are going to argue this, those things are not mutually exclusive. It can be both. In fact, one of the things prosecutors have to show is that there was force or coercion. And so that beating, if I was the prosecutor, I would argue, yeah, you bet it's domestic violence, but it also goes to the sex trafficking and racketeering.
Because the argument could be made that from the prosecution side is that was a form of coercion, that
exactly.
Perhaps she was afraid that she would get beaten up, and that is why she did some of these acts. And we should note, she talked about the selfies where she had a swollen lip and a black eye under her sunglasses. So clearly the prosecution is trying to draw that out. Wolf.
And it's interesting, Alyse, because right now we're being told by our reporters who are inside the courtroom that Cassie Ventura reviewed a binder of more than a dozen photos that were shown, and clearly she was upset. She said she typically reached out to escorts to arrange these freak-offs because it was her job, and she felt she would be punished if she didn't do that.
Yeah, that's incredibly important because remember, the defense opened on the fact that Ventura was a willing participant. That's their theory of the case, that she was Combs's lover and she wanted to be there. And so they had to grapple, the prosecution had to grapple with the fact that Ventura was the one that was arranging some of these freak-offs. I think the prosecution is doing a wonderful job explaining why that was. By framing this as a job instead of something that she wanted to do, it makes it clear that there perhaps was that coercion. And by tying it to that violence, as Elie just said, the photos, the corroboration of the black eyes, it shows that she didn't really have a choice. She was going to be punished if she didn't comply, and that's key.
And she said that she just testified under oath that when she paid these men to be in these so-called freak-offs, it was with Combs's money. That's what she's saying.
Yeah, I think the argument prosecutors are trying to make here is it sounds a little strange, but the freak-offs are not about the sex, or at least the sex is not what's relevant to you, the jury. What's relevant is those freak-offs show the element of coercion, as Alyse was saying, and they show that there's some organization at play here. Remember, this is a racketeering charge, the first charge here, and that means that there was some sort of organized enterprise that was committing multiple crimes. So prosecutors need to show this was more than whatever sexual proclivities may have been, felt here by Sean Combs. There was some organization here with respect to people and methods and payments, and I think that's what prosecutors are building on.
And also another important point, you have the racketeering and the sex trafficking charge, and what I've noticed, and she just talked about it, was the fact that some of this happened across state lines, that it happened in different states, and that is key in terms of the sex trafficking charge. Also, she's talking right now about, in January 2016, that Combs sent her a text that he wanted to have a proper FO, freak-off, where they didn't take ketamine. Of course, drugs have also been a big part of all of this. What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, the crossing state lines is what gets us into federal court. It sounds like they're going to have no problem establishing that. This happened in California, New York, New Jersey, Florida, and elsewhere. Yes. So the point with the freak-offs, and we're going to have a proper freak-off and that kind of thing, and the drugs are part of the persuasion. The drugs are part of the coercion, the threats that make this more than just sex or even more than just domestic violence.
And if I could just add, I mean, that's what Ventura said, that she had to take the drugs to dissociate so she could participate. That doesn't sound like willing participation to me. It probably won't sound like willing participation to a jury.
It's interesting, Alyse. Right now, Cassie Ventura is 8 months pregnant with a very visible baby bump. We've learned that the defense asked the judge to have her seated in the witness box before the jury came in, arguing that her pregnancy would prejudice the jury against Combs. The judge said no. What do you think of that request?
Yeah, look, Wolf, I knew the defense had to try, right? Because they're not going to view her as this 22-year-old girl who set up all of these meetings. They're looking at her now as a 38-year-old mother, and it could possibly invoke some sympathy in the jurors. Listen, jurors are human beings. They're going to feel things, but you can't hide the fact that this is a pregnant woman. And so I think the judge rightly said no. She's going to be able to walk to the witness stand, and she's not doing anything to inflame the passions of the jury. I don't hear any reporting of her really playing up her pregnancy, but they're going to have to contend with the fact that Cassie is a person, and from everything I've heard from the reporting, she is also testifying very well, very credibly and emotionally.
She's there with her husband, who's inside with her as well. And just now we're being told by our reporters in the courtroom that Ventura testified that she tried to avoid kissing the escorts during the so-called freak-offs because it felt too intimate and made me squeamish. That's what she said. And explain to our viewers in terms that we can use here on CNN what these freak-offs were.
Oh boy, that's quite an assignment. What they were these extended, sometimes for a day or 2 days, sexual gatherings. They would usually do them in hotel rooms. Sean Combs would arrange them and engineer them. He would tell Cassie what to do. They would bring in male escorts. One of the things Sean Combs would do is watch Cassie with those male escorts. There were all sorts of lubricants involved. There's baby oil. It's part of this case. But again, the thing that's really relevant to this trial is not whether one agrees or disagrees with the sexual proclivities or is offended by it, but were these voluntary activities? And I think the prosecution's point, as Alyse was saying, is the more extreme this conduct was, the less likely it is that Cassie Ventura would have consented to this, and that she was doing it because she felt forced or compelled or under a threat.
Yeah. All right. Elie, thank you very, very much. Alyse, thanks to you as well.